in
It's not
Sicily.
quite
I know
as
you
well
and
known.
Malcolm has been, but tell us why Puglia and what is different about the culture and food.
So Italy, what's so unique about Italy really is that if you travel, 30 minutes from wherever you are, you're kind of in a whole new region. The foods are different, the salami is different, the bread is different, the wine is different. So Puglia, like all of Italy, is just its own separate thing. And then Puglia itself is, the landscape is quite different because for whatever reason, it's very kind of got this calcareous stone and it's very flat and there are no rivers in Puglia, not one. They have these great kind of underground caverns where water kind of moves through, but it's just a whole different landscape. In Italy, they're known as one of the biggest producers of vegetables. So most of our vegetables come from Puglia, but they're great with vegetable recipes. And they've got, I can't remember how many thousands of miles of coastline. The fish down there is amazing. And the wines, again, are very typical to that area. I think actually Zinfandel comes from, I think it's a Primitivo clone or something, which is native to Puglia. The Normans were there, so the architecture is this big kind of ponderous, the medieval architecture, these, huge Norman cathedrals, that kind of thing. And the seaside is gorgeous. The countryside is gorgeous. It's full of these great little small producers. The Greeks moved in sort of the 7th century BC and started this amazing ceramic tradition. So, we're going to go visit a ceramic artist who sort of, has all that in his head, but then making contemporary vessels. Very just, it's fun to just talk to people and see how they kind of keep their tradition dynamic, keep it moving forward.
Wow.
Hey, sign us up, huh, Joe?
No, that's right. I'd love to.
How do we sign up?
Go to my website, ElaineTrigiani.com, and click the ball, big red ball. It'll ask you where you want to go, and then I'll send you all the information.
Is that the tomato?
It's actually not a tomato,
Okay.
but now that you mention it,
Use
it
the
ought to
tomato
be.
for the ball.
The tomato is my logo. The tomato should be the ball. Why,
That's right.
isn't it? Now I know. I never thought of that. So the trips on the books for next year are Tuscany and Sicily. Dates are already set. Tuscany in April, Sicily in May, and then I haven't set the dates yet for Puglia, but it will be in September. So
Now, it's Education Week at MPB, and in the next two segments, we'll be talking to folks about that. But you do something educational. You have online classes, right?
I also do online classes. So the online classes are still organized as a visit. It's a virtual visit. And we go to, I pick a little place to visit in Italy and talk about the history of the place, a work of art or an artist who came from there, and then we do a cooking lesson. And it's fun. We got started during COVID, and we have a good group of people who we kind of have a nice little family online, and it's still growing. People are joining in all the time. So
Tell us about that family, Joe.
Which family? This family. Look, it was the greatest thing during COVID. Learned how to make porchetta, which is phenomenal. Sans the pig tongue, I guess.
Pork liver.
Pork liver. Sorry, I'm on the tongue. Anyway, but we learned a lot of things. Learned a lot about art. Met some.
We have fun.
We met some new friends because somebody that was on the Zoom class saw a painting behind me and said, "I know that artist." And it was Tim Pierce who said, "I know him. I know Rick Anderson, the artist." And
Wow.
that's
That is
how
funny.
Tim Pierce and I met through Elaine on a Zoom class during COVID.
And
Yeah, it's fun.
reconnected that he had worked for you.
That's right. He worked in the
Many
visual-
years ago at
Crazy.
Small
stopped
world.
counting.
Crazy,
We
small
stopped counting.
world.
We stopped counting too over here.
And also, Elaine, because we only have you for this one segment, you're off to the airport and home to Italy. Let's talk about your olive oil endeavor.
I'm very excited about my olive oil endeavor. I'm getting ready for our new harvest and taking care of our rescue grove, which you can see pictures of on my Instagram account. It's we had to it looks shorn like a sheep right now, but it's coming along. And I've got a little branding project underway, so keep your eyes peeled for some new graphics and some new logos. And I'm really excited about a collaboration that we're doing with Shapley's restaurant here in town. Mark and Mary Shapley have gotten some private label olive oil in and some olio della donna olive oil, and they're actually going to be presenting it on the menu. So next time you're at Shapley's, I think they're going to launch this week. So next time you're at Shapley's, take a look and order some olive oils to try on your steak. They also have some bottles for sale. So if any of y'all who are looking for some oil for your kitchen, they have it out there too.
You know, that's really great because people ask all the time, where they can get it here, and some of us have to give up our own bottles.
I know that.
Particularly when a friend runs low.
I am. If there are any
Did
stores,
you see Malcolm's photograph on Cooking and Coping?
I think I might have missed
a
it.
10-inch chef's knife blade with one drop of olive oil on it. And he said, "This is my last drop."
Oh no!
So of course I
Carol came
y'all
to the
have
rescue.
reordered.
Yes.
We have. Y'all
We have
have
since reordered.
We
But
ordered.
Elaine, I
Joe.
did
Let
come
me
to
just
the
say this.
rescue
I'm
the
the
next
conduit.
day.
I'm the conduit. I'm the olive oil
Carol
conduit.
calls you the
Olive oil
mule.
That's
I've
right.
got
I'm a
several.
mule.
I have several people who make a little group order, and there are 40 and 50 bottles going out at a time. And if there's a store, any shop owner on the line who would like to carry some olive oil, I've been trying to get olio della donna into some shops around here, and so far, no luck. So we got a ready-made market for you.
It's great olive oil.
It is fantastic.
It really is.
2 different varieties.
I make a Tuscan olive oil from olives that I grow in my groves in Tuscany. And I have,
that's the Piero.
That's called Piero, named after who was my best friend in Tuscany, Piero. Malcolm met Piero. Carol met Piero. I don't think that Joe managed to meet Piero. He was they call him a personaggio. He was a big personality.
Yes,
funny.
he was.
He taught me everything I know. And then I make a Sicilian oil as well, and I collaborate with some farmers down in Sicily who I met through the guy who makes the mill. So one key to making really good olive oil is the way that it's extracted and the equipment that's used. So I follow the olive oil making process literally from the field to the bottle. And I'm extremely particular about the extraction method and how that's done. So good mill, good miller. And I have a family down in Sicily, and just kind of for nostalgic reasons and because the oil is really good, I've been wanting to make Sicilian oil, but haven't done it until I had the good mill to use. So.
One of our friends, Anel Primos Barnett, had texted that she saw your olive oil in a catalog from California, and I was so pleased to see that. What's that all about?
That is, I have 2 importers in the U.S., and one is The Rare Wine Company, and they are obviously a wine importer. They import a lot of wines, kind of high-end, small producers, and a small selection of olive oil. And I'm really, really happy to be selected, to be represented by them out in California. And then they do, I think they have a private mail order. That's kind of how they run their business. They also distribute wine, I think, in California. And then I have another importer on the other coast, which is Olio To Go. And they have a very good online shop also.
Wow.
It's been wonderful to follow this journey since we've been doing Cooking and Coping. When you mentioned this as an idea and something you wanted to do, to then the olive oil was launched, and now, two years later, it's really getting out there.
I know. I'm excited about it. I mean, it's starting your own business is never easy. I'm sure a lot of y'all already know that, and everybody's heard that, but until you've done it, I don't think you really get it. But such as me, I didn't really get it. Now I do. But anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with the oil. I moved to Italy because I fell in love with the olive oil, and I mean, it's just such a pure, natural, healthy, good, and good for you product. So I'm really happy to be making my own.
I know you're a certified olive oil taster.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? And where do you do that?
Well, we do it right here on this show. We've done a slurping tasting.
We have done a slurping tasting.
But in Italy, what does that mean?
So it's kind of like being an olive oil sommelier. So all olive oils are different. And it's just, if you think about wine, different wines taste different because they're made with different grapes. Well, different olive oils taste different because they're made with different olives. So different olive varieties, different production methods. Even, the zones, production zones, so, microclimate, soil, all that kind of stuff comes into play, and how you actually make, the extraction method, that all changes the flavor in the end. So Yeah, I got certified as a taster, which kind of helps with food matches a little bit. It's also really helpful being a producer because you can kind of keep quality control and whatnot. But I learned to do that. It was at the Chamber of Commerce in Florence. They have a lab that analyzes all of the wines and olive oils produced in Tuscany, and they taught at the time. I don't think they're still doing it right now. But they taught this very rigorous course that lasted several months. And we had classes with a chemist and an agronomist and whatnot, and we had we did a very in-depth tasting, and then of course had to pass a blind tasting test at the end. And the person who taught that class was a very dynamic producer called Marco Mujadli, and he passed away several years ago, unfortunately, at a kind of young age. And his daughter and son have taken over, and they actually have the mill that I use in Tuscany. So I've kept up that relationship, and I'm happy to take my olives to their mill.
As a certified taster, can you describe the 2 oils that you produce?
I can. I'm going to keep it simple.
Okay. We like it simple.
So the Tuscan oil, which is in a green bottle, in case you're looking at them, the Tuscan oil is grassy and peppery, kind of like black pepper spice, the one you feel kind of far in your throat, and it kind of lingers. And then it's also got a bit of bitterness, which is the hallmark of one of the polyphenols that's present in the olive oil. So the more bitter and the more spicy the oil is, the better it is for you. The Sicilian oil is fruity and spicy. So it's almost more like an arugula spice or, like a kind of red pepper, but maybe when it's still green. Smells like tomatoes, smells like fresh tomatoes, and it's got a very round body. It's just a completely different animal.
Very good. Well, thank you for coming by. We know you have to go to the airport and return to Italy. We thank you for dropping in on Deep South Dining.
I'm running out the door. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure. I'm going to come back for coffee time sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Next time you're in town,
I just invited myself over.
That's okay.
We'd love to have you over.
I love when people do that.
Arrivederci.
Joe, you're sticking around.
I'm staying
and we're going
here.
to take a break. Elaine's off to Italy. Next, we will have 2 special guests in the studio for what I mentioned earlier. It is MPB's Education Week. The executive director of the Mississippi Hospitality and Restaurant Association, Pat Fontaine, will be here, along with culinary arts instructor at Clinton High School, Chef Catherine Bruce, will join us. So if you want to join that conversation, it's 1-877-672-7464. Or you can shoot us an email to food@mpbonline.org. More Deep South Dining in just a few minutes.
The final episode of Season 1 of the 10-Minute Timeout is available right now. This week, we preview the upcoming football season for universities in the state.
And for us, I think the thing that helps at Mississippi State is the fact that we've got great proximity to players. Inside of our 5-hour radius, we've got great football players inside this state.
Listen to the entire first season right now at mpbonline.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Humor, stories, news, music. Our weekend lineup has it all. Tune in to enjoy the relaxed sound of the weekends on MPB Think Radio.
Do you look forward to Mondays? You do if you listen to MPB. Now You're Talking with Marshall Ramsey is compelling stories with interesting people. Southern Remedy Healthy and Fit gives you suggestions to better your life. If you've missed a show, find our podcast. Our local shows continue after Deep South Dining on MPB Think Radio.
You're listening to Deep South Dining on MPB Think Radio. To call the show, dial 1-877-MPB-RING. That's 877-672-7464. Or email food@mpbonline.org. This is MPB Think Radio.
Welcome back to Deep South Dining right here on MPB Think Radio. Malcolm White, Carol Palmer, Joe Sherman, and our special guest. But before we introduce our special guest, Carol, there's something red on the countertop over here.
Yes, indeed,
What have
Malcolm.
you there?
It's a present for you. This is red okra from Two Dog Farms farm store, and I think you saw my post on Sunday. My husband went in and did a little impulse buying. And I know he
likes to buy.
He does. Well, before we started dating, somebody told me, he said, well, he's a shopper. Anyway, he's been handing out heirloom tomatoes
Oh, boy.
like crazy. But anyway, I love this red okra. I've been buying it, and I got some for you this morning.
You.
But it's gorgeous. And
It is beautiful, yeah.
yeah, I emailed Van Killen, who's the owner of Two Dog Farms, and asked what variety is, and it's called Carmine Splendor. There are about 5 varieties of red okra, and it was developed at Clemson in 1983, so it's not a traditional okra. So anyway, I thought you would enjoy it.
I
You're
will.
an okra guy.
Love okra.
I'm surprised not orange.
Yeah,
Clemson.
Clemson.
Good point, Joe. Good point.
It could be orange, but John has already sent someone out there this morning to get him some more heirloom tomatoes, so be looking for those.
All right, we are so happy to have in the studio with us a couple of guests because it is Education Week here on MPB Think Radio. Chef Catherine Bruce is here. She's a graduate of Johnson & Wales University, 20 years in the industry, hotels, catering, personal chef. And her current situation is she is the culinary arts instructor at Clinton High School and has been there for 6 years. Wow. Also, Patrick Fontaine, who is the executive director of the Mississippi Hospitality and Restaurant Association. Boy, do I know that organization. He has worked there and directly or indirectly since 2004. Now, here's something, Carol, that really got me going. His grandparents operated Allison's Wells Resort at Way, Mississippi, near Canton, which was the first home of the Mississippi Art Colony.
Yes.
Then they moved after it burned in 1963. Pat's folks moved down to Pascagoula and ran the La Fonte Inn, which was where the art colony then moved to. And he operated, along with his family, this 191-room property, restaurant, lounge, banquet facilities on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. He's a graduate of the University of South Alabama, and we are glad that you both are here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Yes.
Chef, what do you think about the okra?
Yeah. Interesting variety. I agree that it should have been orange. I'm shocked. It should have been orange.
I know. They're colorblind. Okay,
and Pat, I mean, you are the perfect person to be director of the Mississippi Hospitality and Restaurant Association after, growing up in those 2 very iconic places in Mississippi.
Well, unfortunately, I never had the pleasure of visiting Allison's Wells. I wasn't born until 1967, but a lot of great stories.
They supposedly had an amazing food service out there. I was never able to see it. I did go out there one time because I wanted to see where it was because it was such an iconic place, both in culinary arts and in the visual arts. So I went out there one time, tromped around where the location was.
Well, I read the book by Norma Watkins a few years ago that talked about being in that family, and you could really get a sense of the place, of the old. I mean, the boards and the porches and the heat, and it was a great read.
Yeah.
Because it was before. I mean, I was certainly born, and I remember when it burned down, but I never got to experience it.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, tell us a little bit about what the Mississippi Hospitality and Restaurant Association does.
Well, of course, we are the trade association that represents the hospitality and restaurant industries here in Mississippi. We are the voice of the industries at all levels of government. We get involved at the city county level, most oftentimes when they're tax-related issues, but the best example of getting involved at the city level was the water crisis in Jackson a couple of years ago. And so we formed our members together, formed a collective voice, and let our voice be heard. And then, of course, we are present at the legislature each session to make certain that there are no bills introduced that have an adverse effect on our members. And we're also affiliated with the National Restaurant Association, support their efforts in Washington, D.C., and I have to commend the NRA's government affairs team. They really do a yeoman's job of protecting the industry there. Yep. We also we offer some cost savings programs to our members, one being a health insurance program through United Healthcare. We also Serve Safe, which is the nationally credentialed food safety program. We have member instructors that teach those classes across the state, and of course members receive a discount on the manager certification. And then we provide information to our members. We are a hub for any resource that anyone in the industry is looking for.
Well, your industry was hit so badly by COVID, and I would really like to hear what your association did during that time and how you helped all the small restaurants, big and small restaurants.
Well, of course, I took over as executive director in January of 2019.
Welcome to the business.
I had 1 year under my belt, and I was actually in Washington, D.C. For our NRA Public Affairs Conference at the end of February of 2020. And it was kind of as a side note, there's this thing called coronavirus, and you may want to
read up on it.
Read this information. So for the first 45 days of shelter in place, we were on calls with the National Restaurant Association and the other state restaurant associations daily. And that's just how quickly things were moving. And, of course, they did a fantastic job of working with the CDC on guidelines, and of course the role that we played keeping everybody informed, because those guidelines were changing. And then also worked very closely with the governor's office and his chief of staff as those executive orders were issued. A lot of questions always when one would come out, the phone would ring, exactly what does this mean? What can I do? And so providing that clarification to them.
Well, Chef, we're glad you're here. We had a caller, actually, in the first segment asking, when is Chef Bruce going to be on? So now you're on, your fan club is waiting. Tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are now in Clinton teaching culinary arts.
Yes. So after culinary school, I jumped into the industry and worked everywhere from hotels to restaurants, a lot of personal chefing, but mostly catering and event planning for 20 years in Charleston, South Carolina. And we moved back to Mississippi. I'm originally from Yazoo City, so local flavor here, and moved back and really wanted to find my place here in Mississippi and how I could serve the industry. And this job came available at Clinton High School. And I had never taught before formally, and which a lot of career and technical education professors haven't. We just jump in and bring our trade to the students
do
and
what you do.
Learn to teach as we go. Yeah. And so in 2019, I started teaching right before COVID hit. And so halfway through my first year, we were pulled out of school, and that kind of changed things drastically. But I've been there ever since, and it's been a fantastic opportunity. So.
Great. How many students do you teach?
We have 100 students total in our program.
Wow.
We have a level 1, 2, and 3. So Chef Phillips, Josh Phillips, is another chef instructor we have there teaching level 1. And then level 2 is our second year students, of course. And then level 3 is our internship. And that is where we handpick 8 to 10 students who are going to be serious contenders to go out into the industry. Most of them want to go to culinary school or pursue a career somewhere in this industry. And those students, we really mentor and give them leadership roles. They help train the younger students. They act as teachers' aides for us. They have jobs in the industry, getting hands-on experience from some of our top chefs here in the Jackson area. So.
Do you serve as a feeder program for the community colleges? Programs, their culinary arts programs, or do most of your kids go on to, like you say, chef schools outside the state, maybe?
We do have several who are in the Hines and Holmes Community College programs here. I actually have 3 this year going up to Culinary Institute of America, starting in just a few weeks.
That's
yes,
awesome.
I'm thrilled. We have one at Auburn University right now in their new culinary program that is top-notch. I'm an Auburn grad, so I can throw that. War Eagle. And so, yes, we have them in all those different areas.
Well, that's quite something that you have some going to the Culinary Institute of America. Joe and I, in our previous lives and jobs, worked with the Culinary Institute both in Hyde Park and Greystone out in out in California. We both worked for Viking Range, and that kind of fell into our bailiwick was relationships.
So we learned
with
a lot.
them.
It's a beautiful campus. I took the students this past spring break to New York.
Oh, darn.
Did you really?
And was able to show them.
So out of the 100 students, how many of them are there how many of them do you mentor that you think are going to move on to do something else?
Usually for that level 3 program, it's about 8 students. So.
Yeah. Well, Clinton seems to be very forward-thinking, having a program like this. I really haven't heard of a high school program.
There's several throughout the states. Yes, there's 70.
Well, first, the program that she's talking about is one that was developed by the National Restaurant Association Education Foundation. It's called ProStart, and it is a 2-year industry-backed culinary arts program and restaurant management program. Nationwide, it's in 1,800 schools in all 50 states, around 165,000 students. Here in Mississippi, there are actually 63 high schools that have culinary arts programs.
Stone County has.
Who knew?
But of those 63, only 43 are confirmed ProStart schools.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit more about exactly what ProStart, that program is.
Well, I'll defer to Chef Bruce.
Okay.
So the National Restaurant Association writes our curriculum. They provide our textbooks, our pacing guides, everything we need, from recipes to PowerPoints to help us be able to teach this curriculum. And what I love is that they have spoken with the industry and asked them, what do you want us to teach these students? What do they need to know? And as much as we love to teach them recipes, the main 3 things that the industry wants from us is knife skills.
I knew it was going to be number one.
You knew.
Save your fingers.
There you go. They want them trained well in knife skills. Safety and sanitation is the second one. They want them ServSafe certified, which all of our students leave our program ServSafe manager certified, which is the highest one you can get. And then the third thing is just product identification. They want them to be able to walk in a pantry and know the difference in cilantro and parsley. And cake flour and all-purpose flour. And so if the chef sends them to the refrigerator, they know what to bring back. So those are what we really focus on while we're teaching the recipes, are those 3 things.
Wow.
What % of your kids go right into to work and versus, say, go off to college or culinary school?
Well, while they're in high school, I would say about 50% of my students are all working in the industry. We've got one at Sal and Mookie's, one at Kate's. We've got them, working for these chefs, learning what the industry looks like. A lot of them are at Chick-fil-A and Sonic locally, so spread throughout.
And I will say that, of course, Chef Bruce's program there in Clinton is one of the top programs in the state. And, of course, being in Clinton, there are many opportunities for practical work experience. Unfortunately, a lot of the programs that are in your smaller rural areas, there's not that opportunity. And so part of the requirements to be a confirmed ProStart program is you have to complete a survey. And so they take time, kind of give some information about the number of students. In Mississippi last year, it was the instructors reported that it was known about 18.5% of their students were currently working in the industry. And of course, one of the objectives that we have is to connect member restaurants with these ProStart programs. And, for the work experience, also they like to go and provide their students with some firsthand knowledge of what a commercial kitchen is like. And so Chef Bruce works very closely with some of our top local restaurateurs. I'll let her tell you more about that.
Sure.
The local community of chefs has been so generous. I can make a phone call to Derek Emerson or Hunter Evans and Chef Salinas over at Just Vanilla Bakes, and they will just come in and work with the students on certain projects or teaching them new skills. So the local community has been fantastic at giving to our students.
Now, is this a 4-year program? Do they start when they're freshmen in high school, or you have to be upper class?
So Clinton High School is 10th through 12th grade, and so they can start in 10th grade. If they miss out on 10th grade, because there is a waiting list to get in the program, so if they can't get in 10th grade, they try again in 11th grade. They do have to start one of those 2 years, though, and complete 2 years. The third year is optional, and it's for those students who do start in 10th grade and really are interested in
They're going to stay in the industry.
Correct.
Did they get class credit, or is it an elective, or?
It's an elective class.
Yeah.
What I love about it, though, unlike we're on the block system at Clinton where they meet A days and B days, so most teachers get them every other day. In the career and technical education programs, I get them every day for 90 minutes. And for possibly 3 years. And the relationships that you form with these students, because of that, it's not every other day, it's not just for 1 year, it is 3 full years. So we really do build great relationships with these students.
Do you have any restaurants contacting you for people who work in the kitchen?
Absolutely. Because they're
chefs?
ServSafe Manager certified, they are very valuable in the industry. And again, our program, to get into our program, you have to have good grades and no behavior problems. So I have 100 students who are certified and ready to work. So anyone who needs students can contact me, and we're happy to post
This
jobs.
is so wonderful, for the restaurants, and I bet the casinos use a lot of students. I mean, those kitchens.
And they're actually very involved in the programs there in Ocean Springs and Biloxi and Gulfport. So, yes, and you talk
because
about...
it's hard to find good kitchen help, and when you said they come ServSafe certified with this training.
And to have
ServSafe's
access
not
to
easy.
some of those kitchens,
Where do you put the fish?
the instructors love to take their students on tours there in the casino kitchens.
So what type of facility do you have to cook in and teach in?
It's a gym. In 2019-20, they started construction at Clinton High School on a beautiful new career and technical education addition. So I have a full dining room that seats 125 that overlooks the football field with these beautiful windows, a demonstration station with TV cameras, televisions, and burners, plenty of space for all the students to see. And then in the back, we have a full commercial kitchen with enough room for all 16 students to cook at once.
Wow.
I tell them not to get used to this. This is not.
Please
This
don't.
is an embarrassment of riches. I can tell you.
That is
It is.
amazing.
The kitchen is phenomenal, but I show them pictures of what a real commercial kitchen looks like, and that you're swiveling, between one tiny station.
Wow.
Like Derek Emerson's kitchen at Walker's. You see behind the window.
Versus the one at Kate.
Yeah, right. I think,
Exactly,
I think he
exactly.
said you can touch. You can touch.
Yes.
The
Both
food
walls.
that they put out of that. Of
Man.
that restaurant. So there's a demonstration kitchen and a commercial kitchen.
Correct. In the dining room, there's a demonstration countertop where the students can sit and see. So when we do have these chefs come in, they have plenty of space to work and show the students what they're doing.
And I will say her facility by far is one of the best in the state. Been to the one in DeSoto County. Again, a great facility there. The coast has been very fortunate.
Yeah, Gulf Coast Community College has a really nice facility.
And Biloxi, Gulfport, Ocean Springs. Unfortunately, though, the schools that are in districts that don't have the larger population bases, the larger tax bases, they don't have the type of facilities that the larger areas do.
Yeah. Well, Joe and I have both been in the cooking school business. I first threw my store, the Everyday Gourmet, and then Viking Range, and it's amazing what you can teach in these smaller communities with an induction burner or a small butane on a tabletop with some cutting boards and some knives. So I'm sure there's a lot of creativity. But, we've all had to do it going on the road and doing demonstrations and stuff.
Remotes.
And it's amazing what can come out of
Before
that.
food trucks. Before food trucks.
Okay, we've got a caller. Chef Durham is calling from Holmes Community College, I believe. Hello, Chef.
Hey, good morning. How are y'all?
Doing great.
I just wanted to call this morning and just voice my praise and admiration for Chef Bruce. She got me influenced in teaching after leaving the industry, and really motivated me to do what my passion was and just follow teaching, and it's been great. And I just appreciate her friendship.
Well, do you run the program at Holmes?
I'm one of the instructors at Holmes, yes.
Oh, great. Now, where did you have the opportunity to study culinary arts in high school?
Not in high school, but I did get a degree at the Art Institute of Nashville.
Oh, okay.
Oh, fantastic.
How many?
Yeah, how many people are in your program? And if you want to make a pitch about your program, we'd love to hear it.
So currently we have a 2-year program at Holmes, and it covers everything from introductory all the way to management, American regional cuisine, international cuisine, lots of different types of programs. We also connect with a lot of local chefs here in the area. We do a lot of catering for the schools, lots of baking, pastry, dining room management. It's a great program. With the new year approaching, I'm not sure exactly how many students we have this year, so I can get back to y'all on that. But I know that it's a privilege to be there for sure.
Great. Well, thanks a lot for listening, and we appreciate your call. It's good to hear from folks out there working in the fields. And you were influential in this person's life.
Yes, I have to brag on Chef Durham. He is a ramen noodle aficionado.
Oh,
so
really?
if you need good ramen, he came and demoed ramen noodles for my students. He had worked in Nashville at some really upscale ramen spots, and he knows his noodles.
His ramen.
He knows his noodles.
That's great. Nice.
Well, Carol, as you know, I have a culinary scholarship at Hines, and I have one at Northeast, where my dad was the former president. So I get to work with the community college culinary programs across the state. And I'm also sort of affiliated with the Stone County, where I grew up, high school program. And they're actually having a ribbon cutting on a new facility in about a month. Do you know
I don't know
this?
many details about
Yeah.
it, but
Not the new facility. I visited, of course, it was probably 2018, and they were in a situation where to conduct labs, they actually were in an old fast food restaurant.
Right.
And so great to see that they finally have
they got
that
a
facility.
brand new program. All right, so if you want to talk a little bit more about the work at the Restaurant Association, I've been a longtime member and throughout the years, but a lot of people may or may not know, besides the advocacy work and the training, what else does the Restaurant Association, Mississippi Restaurant Hospitality and Restaurant Association do?
Well, as I had mentioned, we are kind of a hub for resources, information. One of the services that we do provide for members and potential members is working with the State Department of Health in the permitting process.
Very important.
Exactly, and we get phone calls quite often, people that are wanting to enter into the industry, start their own restaurants, and don't have the knowledge or experience, and so we're there to kind of guide them along the way.
Mm-hmm. Do you do training besides the programs that we've already mentioned around, say, cost or menu design and development and that sort of stuff?
We can assist in any aspect of operations, and we actually utilize it was a publication from the National Restaurant Association, and it's called their feasibility study, designed for the person that I just described, wanting to enter into the industry, very little knowledge about it. And this guides them along the way, every component, particularly in the financial aspect of it. And what I have seen, of course, is that it requires a great deal of research before you open a restaurant, before you sign a lease.
If you want a fighting chance.
That's for sure.
That is correct. And, the last thing that I want to see is somebody, allocating their life savings into this, putting themselves into debt, and then not succeed.
Right, yeah. It's a tough business with a high failure rate, but it's also a very rewarding business with a great future if you happen to get your ducks in a row.
And that's something that the curriculum covers, is a whole unit. I'll do 4 weeks on culinary business principles. And so we cover profit loss, we cover costing of the recipes, and we'll bring in Andy from Iron Horse Grill, the general manager there, came in and did a whole talk about the passion he has for knowing the business of it and knowing what you're doing before you get into it. And so we do a food truck project with the students where they cost out a food truck, build out a small model of a food truck, then produce some of the items on it, and that way they can see from beginning to end
what it costs,
some of the labor, the bills, everything in it. So I want them to have the realistic view of what that looks like.
Sounds like a great program.
Yeah,
it's a really great program.
I wished in high school, I enjoyed being involved in sports, but it would have been cool if I could have taken a few classes, 2 years worth of this instead of.
And for me, instead of having to do home ec, it's all home economics, which all girls.
And we had shop.
Yes, the boys had shop.
Women
This is
had
the new
home
home
ec.
ec.
We had football.
we had football. Chef, can you share a few student success stories for us, just so our listeners will know, what happens when these kids graduate and move on?
Yes, well, I'm only in year 6 right now, so most of my students are still in college. I haven't had many graduate yet, and I do something from there. So stay tuned for that, because I'm sure I'm going to have some big success stories later. But I will say the thing I challenge them most with while they're in high school is cottage law, that they can use cottage law to cook from home, especially baking products. So it's legal for them to make baked goods and sell them at farmers markets or to their friends. And I have seen some of these students' businesses just take off. It's been amazing to see the money they can make and learning in the process how to run their own small business. So I would say that's been the biggest success story.
And I was really fascinated that you talked about the food truck as a concept, because I think a lot of young, aspiring restaurateurs kind of want to do a food truck because it's the new, hot, cool, hip sort of thing. And most people who own restaurants also typically nowadays have a food truck to go to festivals, outdoor events, and what have you. Sounds like a great way to educate them about this concept of the food truck.
An investment in a food truck's got to be smaller than an investment in bricks and mortar. Right. Signing a lease, payroll.
Right.
Coverage.
Well, and you're portable. You go
right.
where the
you
go
are
where the people want you.
automatic catering business too.
And you can work when you want to.
And you can change your menu when you want
right.
to. I mean,
Exactly.
there's so much flexibility there.
Exactly.
But permitting wise, the food truck has to have all the same permits that a restaurant has.
That is absolutely correct. And they have to have access. And of course, what the Department of Health likes to see is a commissary kitchen, in which they have the 3 compartment sink.
Absolutely.
They have storage. They have garbage disposal. So yes, every element of a brick and mortar restaurant, a food truck, and there's some food trucks that have all of that self-contained in the unit. It's amazing. But of course, a lot of the ones that are more basic, a commissary kitchen is the best route to take.
Well, and last year we did have several guest speakers come in who were food truck owners to talk to the students, not just the permits within the truck, but the city permits you have to have of where you can actually then take your food truck, which I didn't realize how strict those were from just region to region and town to town. So that was eye-opening to hear directly.
And most events have their own process of getting granted a food truck to attend a festival or a parade or something. So there's multiple layers of knowledge one needs to know before they jump in the food truck and just show up. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming in today, Pat. Thanks for being here to talk to us about the Restaurant Association. And Chef Bruce, thank you for the work you do in Clinton, and we look forward to following your success stories.
Thank
you very much.
All right, thanks a lot, Joe. Man, we're glad that you're here today. Next week, we'll be back. We're launching the coffee club,
I'm ready.
Carol. So,
are you going to bring coffee?
BYOC.
Yeah, who's bringing the coffee?
I'll bring it from my Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe's in the Dunkin' Donut business.
I have the Dunkin' Donuts in Pearl.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
If you ever want your kids to go,
come on,
check out how they work.
That would be a fun field trip for sure.
A good cause. Well, thank you all so much for today's show. Deep South Dining is a production of Mississippi Public Broadcasting's Think Radio. We are funded by generous contributions from listeners like yourself, and we thank you. Our show is produced by Marissa Vaughn. For our guests, Elaine Trigiani, Pat Fontaine, Chef Catherine Bruce, and Joe Sherman, Carol Palmer and I say thank you. I'm Malcolm White, and we ask that you now stay tuned for Marshall Ramsey's show, Now You're Talking, followed by Southern Remedy at 11. And join us next Monday for more Deep South Dining, heard only on MPB Think Radio. We also rebroadcast on Sunday mornings at 9. See you next week.
This forecast is underwritten by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Mississippi. Smarter, better health.